and welcome to today's episode of How to Spark Success. I'm your host, Liz Hamlet, and I'm a success coach and business mentor. I'm also founder of Spark Succeed. So I've got a real treat for you today in this podcast episode. So this is the show where I have conversations with smart and savvy business owners, and we get to steal some of their success secrets and hear all about their journeys. So my guest today is absolutely fabulous. She's joining me from Richmond, Virginia. She is a LinkedIn business coach, and she's the host of her own podcast, which is the Judi Show. And she's also a sales and video strategy expert. So welcome to the fabulous Judi Fox. Hi, Judi. How are you?
Hi, so excited to be here. And thank you for a very nice introduction.
That's okay. We'll introduce, just in case we have a little special extra guest, that you're here with your puppy, aren't you?
Yes. Does the puppy want to say hi?
Yeah.
Oh, he just crawled
He just
under
ran
the
off.
desk.
So we'll introduce
But yes,
him.
I have a small Sheltie puppy. So he's a miniature collie.
He is gorgeous. So if we have an extra little guest answering some of the questions, we know who he is.
Yes. Oh, there he is. He's out now.
Oh, he's so cute. He looks like a good
let
boy.
us talk.
Fantastic. So thanks so much for joining me today from overseas. It's fantastic to have you. So do you want to, I know you're doing some fantastic stuff, and I see you on different people's shows. So it'd be great for you to tell us a bit about, your journey, what you're doing now, how you got to be where you are today. So I know it's a really interesting story.
Yeah. So I think I can go all the way back to just going to college, deciding that I wanted to be a chemical engineer at the time, mainly because my dad was an engineer, my sister was an engineer, and I was really good at math and science and just felt like that was a natural progression. I picked chemical engineering because, again, it just felt like, well, I loved chemistry, thought that was an easy subject. So compared, other people are like, what?
I was going to say, not for me.
But I always excelled in that area. So I figured I might as well just get my career in this area. And I started my first year out of college. I worked in a gypsum mine, which is an open pit, open mine construction site. We were making sheetrock that goes into buildings and materials. So having that job right out of college was pretty intense. And I learned very quickly that I wanted to move either into management or to get my master's degree, either an MBA. So I went and applied for a job in Chicago for the same company and got it. And I didn't necessarily have the degree or the experience, but what I had was what my boss came to tell me was he was always looking for brains, energy, and enthusiasm. And he said, you have those in spades. Like, you have tons of brains, energy, and enthusiasm. So that's really how it kind of all got started for anything in my life. Just being told that, if you have those three elements, or you can figure, if everything is kind of figure outable, if you can figure something out, you can get it done. So got my master's in 2004, and then the economic crisis hit 2008. And so I had a job straight from 1999 till 2008 and never needed to look for another job. I loved what I was doing. I was in a management position, climbing the ladder within that company. I was living in Chicago. Life was pretty good. And then the crisis hit. And that's when I realized, wow, I need to be diversified for my life. Just to be able to make sure that doesn't happen again, where I get suddenly let go during a crisis. And it's never going to be a matter of if there's a crisis, it's always a matter of when.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how I got started on LinkedIn. I made my first post over 10 years ago on LinkedIn, completely awkward. It was, I could scroll all the way back to my first post. It's pretty bad. But I started just engaging on that platform. I wrote things, looking for recruiters, or because I was looking for a job. I always thought I would use LinkedIn to search for a job. But as the years have gone by, a lot has changed since 2008. 2008, I started side hustling, learning how to write contracts, to do subcontracts for small consulting firms so I could be added on as an add-on to their project team. Like, I just started doing a lot of behind the scenes work to build my own business without knowing I was doing it.
Fantastic. And I know, you've given loads of fantastic tips on sort of the use of LinkedIn, and, it's more important than ever when, we're all working from home at the moment, predominantly. So, what would you say is your sort of the one most impactful thing that business owners can do on LinkedIn to sort of really get more noticed on the platform?
Yes, one of the biggest ones is commenting. So going out and commenting on the today's news and views on the right-hand column, where you have journalists, you have thought leaders, you have people being featured, and that's how your comments will get featured as critical thought leadership. So high quality comments where you really do share what your experience is, your advice, and you have a leadership voice in your comment. So leadership voices on LinkedIn either sound like a curious leader, like asking curious questions as a leader. Do you think this way? Do you agree? Like, what kind of energy, what kind of curiosity energy can you spark conversation? The other leadership voice is a creator type of a voice where you are giving some action steps, very actionable information. So somebody maybe asks a question on the platform and you give, oh, I would do step 1, step 2, step 3. And that's more the creator leadership energy on LinkedIn. And then the last one is a coach energy, where you are a resource, where you say, oh, I can tag in 3 people because these are the perfect people for you to look at hiring to work with or to be a resource for you. Or, oh, this is my favorite microphone for doing Zoom calls. That's a resource where you show up and offer resourceful information that can impact somebody else's life. So.
And there's a lot of people talking about sort of trying to trick the algorithm, and if you don't include sort of external links, and if you put them in the comments, and I mean, what's your thoughts around the sort of algorithm, and whether there's any sense behind that?
Algorithms will change, and I have learned to always be thinking of experimenting, testing. Everything's an experiment in life. Everything on these platforms will change. There is a guarantee that it will change. So I don't think from a place of algorithm. I include external links in my posts. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I don't get one chance to make that post. I can try again. So I honestly think if something doesn't work and you saw maybe it was the external link that held that post back, that would be an option to repost that or reshare that in another way. I just really like to think that I'm going to test it. I'm going to see if it's working, if it's not. If it's not working, I'll try and put it out a different way. So that's how I think about the algorithm. It's just moving around and testing it at all times because it's always going to be changing.
I think that's great. And, not having sort of a formulaic thing to sort of test out is sort of perfect approach. So, I know you obviously, one of the things you expert in, aside from LinkedIn, is sales and video strategy. So one of the things I've been talking about, and I've put out a lot of resources in the last week, is encouraging business owners to make use of video in their marketing strategy. And I know you will be extolling the virtues of that. So what's your thoughts on sort of the benefits of using video for, SME business owners?
Video cuts through all these layers of touch points that you may have to do with your customers to warm them up. Video, seeing me looking into the camera, seeing us having a conversation, even if it's a clip of this video, we create more relationships faster and we create more relatability to understand the concepts we're talking about, the energy and the vibe we put out into the world, which is truly, and now it goes into sales, but emotion is what makes sales happen more and faster than anything else on this planet, is buying on emotion. And so if we feel somebody's emotion, we need what that person is selling. It's this perfect storm of something you can never convey just by written word. Written word is beautiful, and I think there's amazing writers out there that can convey emotion, but there's nothing about seeing somebody's eyes and expression and joy or whatever emotion they're putting on their face. You can't fake it, especially if it's live or it was recorded live.
Mm-hmm.
That is very powerful.
Definitely. And I think, using another me, so not just the post as well. I know that when we linked up, we were sort of exchanging voice notes and messages. And I think that's so impactful. I found, those people that make me just a 30-second video or a voice note so much more impactful. You get a feeling for them immediately, and there's that connection. I think, you're much more likely to respond to that. So is that something you use as well within LinkedIn?
Yes, I love voice messages. I leave them all the time because I think, number one, you can really hear that somebody cares about you for a second or 30 seconds, like you said, that somebody cares to spend enough time to send a personalized message, because on LinkedIn especially, that cannot be mass produced. That message is to you and you alone. It's between the two of us. And there, with all of the spam and all of the potential mass messaging that's happening out there, a feeling that I'm just a number in their cog wheel of sales. Video can be mass produced, but voice messages right now on LinkedIn specifically cannot be mass produced.
Yeah, and it's all about that sort of know, like, and trust, that connection. So I think that's fantastic. So for you, what would you say has been the biggest factor in your success?
The biggest factor is, I think the moment I had the biggest leap or breakthrough was when I reduced the noise. And by reducing the noise, it's not that I took in less, I love listening to podcasts, I love reading books, but I looked at the information differently. I looked at, okay, which pieces are actually impactful to me to implement versus trying to implement everything that felt like it was out there, because there's a lot of advice out there. There's a ton of advice for how to run a business, a ton of advice for how to do a podcast, a ton of advice for how to do video. But what it really boils down to is kind of being able to listen to it and then put it into a funnel of your own mind and filter everything out to really distill what you want to implement, because you cannot implement everything. So sometimes that is reducing the noise, thinking of listening and consuming as putting it into your own funnel that distills out what is finally important to you, what you really want to, what you need to pay attention to, the business and life that you want, because that's not the advice that's out there for everybody. You have to put it through a filter. And the moment I really consciously put that filter on, and it had to be conscious, I had to be aware that I was doing it to drown out the noise of what I need to now implement. So that was great advice I just heard. I need to click through and say what needs to stay, what needs to go.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. And there's so much information when you're setting up a business or when you're growing a business, and people's advice is often very conflicting. And I love that sort of filtering what is right for you and the business, and what you will action. Because I find this a lot. When people are a bit scared about taking the next step, whether that's launching their business or sort of growing or sort of maybe refocusing, you can get this sort of research paralysis, where you're reading and taking in all this extra information and great advice, but it just can become a bit paralyzing. So I love that pick what you listen to and just really filter out is perfect piece of advice.
And it is okay, and it's powerful to look at somebody's life, look at the business they've built, and to see, and that's what's so powerful about people's stories, because we don't all want to build a business the same as each other. Somebody's way of operating in the world, they maybe love running a group, a big Facebook group, 10,000, 20, 50,000 people, and that is so incredible to them. Or some people want one-on-one clients for the rest of their lives. Or so you understand there's totally different energies out in the world and a million ways to run a business, and how you interact with your clients and how you sell something. Is it digital products or is it physical products? Or there's so many options. And I feel like you really do need to start thinking about who is giving you the advice, and are they potentially living a life that's closer to the life you want to live.
That's fantastic. And we talked about your absolutely gorgeous puppy, and so I'm sure like one of your success habits on a daily basis is taking him for a walk. But what would you say your success habits are on a daily or weekly basis that really help you?
I think it was about a year ago that I wrote down several manifestos, my Judy Fox manifesto, and also put together a guide that was something that has these keywords and phrases like clients will come to me easily and effortlessly. Just very repeatable inspiration, but not just inspirational, but how I see myself. And then I'm just going to tell you guys, I don't know if it sounds funny. I don't know how many times I've shared this, but I wrote, copy and pasted several of my favorite reviews, recommendations, referrals that people have given to me, and the words they wrote about me. And I read them back to myself almost every single day to remind myself that this is me. So there are people that there's things that could hurt, there's things that can happen. But to remind myself that I had somebody named Gabrielle, and she said, Judi is a rock star, like this and all these amazing things. And I impacted and changed her life. She was coming out of college. I worked with her aunt over 10 years ago, and she sent her niece to me. And then I ended up working with her coming out of college. And she said that the work I did with her on LinkedIn completely changed the trajectory of the beginning of her career, and being able to get a job and being able to move effortlessly through that. And then when I have my clients tell me they've booked the most sales calls they've ever booked in their life, it means something. It's huge. The impact is off the charts. Like I have to remind myself that exists.
Yeah, I think that, that affirmation piece, which is, like you said, the manifesto, and, it's affirmations, that these clients come to me, abundantly, etc.
Yeah.
So key. And one of my recent guests on the podcast from the US as well is Tasia Valenza. And I don't know if you know her. She's fantastic. She's an Emmy Award-winning voiceover artist, and she's got she works on Give Great Voice, which is all about sort of positivity in your communication and using some of those voiceover skills in your day-to-day life. And she's actually launched an app with affirmations, and it was just bringing that back about how important it is, that mindset piece as a business owner, to you can have tough weeks or tough months, especially during lockdown, but sort of reminding yourself of the value, and I think also on that sort of value piece, as business owners, we may be asked to sort of reduce our prices for people. And, I think exactly what you were saying about that manifesto, sort of taking you back and reminding, no, this is, I have amazing impact, amazing value, and, not feeling pressured to do that. Because I think as small business owners, often I hear, they're feeling pressured to sort of reduce that, but, reminding them of the value, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a certain vibe that maybe because you read that value sheet, you read that, where you stand, and that's when people feel your boundaries versus you even having to express them. So a lot of people do struggle with, and I have in the past, I've struggled with boundaries, and I still have moments where I'm like, where does this boundary lay? Like, what do I do with this? But I think the most important thing is to know and hear that you do have radical ownership of your situation. And that's where you can step back into your power when you do feel powerless. And that's honestly what LinkedIn and LinkedIn video did for me, was stepping back into my power, showing up on video, expressing my voice in a way that I may say something similar to somebody else, but you'll still never hear it the same way. That's why we have so many artists that are musicians that all put out different music, because we need similar topics like love songs to be expressed in many different ways. And that analogy was very powerful to me to hear when they said, like, can you imagine, pick one of your favorite artists, now pick a similar artist singing the same topic, and would you delete either song? And I'm like, no, I want both songs. Well, then that's the same analogy there is for all the people who are your peers, your colleagues, your competition. We're never going to be the same artist singing the exact same song. So there's going to be people that want both of our voices on the platform, on the radio.
And I think, you mentioned storytelling previously, and I think that's so important for business owners to sort of communicate, their reason why they set up. It's so interesting for me to hear your story and the story of other guests of exactly how they came to launch their business and, what brought them to that. And, often they're very non-linear careers. You're saying working in a mine. I mean, you couldn't get much different to I love
heavy construction materials.
Yeah, you tell me next that, your house is built solely with this product.
So I think the other important piece to share that I just want to make sure I mention, because I don't always see people ahead of me in similar shoes. So as I am a single parent, and I've been single parenting since my child was around 2 years old. So that is he's 8 years old now. So you can do the math. And I really want to share that, because I feel like not enough people really either talk about it, or I didn't see enough people ahead of me to see a single parent running a business successfully that is also living a life that they love, and they're not burned out, and there's a balance. So it does go back to me getting my master's in business sustainability. So I always think about, what are sustainable things that I can do that are not just important and urgent to do, but high impact?
Yeah.
And being on a podcast like this one is high impact, and it lasts longer, and it's more important to think about those tasks in your business and really narrowed that down, because as anyone in business, it doesn't matter if you're a single parent, but I just happen to be one. We only have so much bandwidth. And so I have to look at where I can put my voice, and where I can put my time, and where I can show up with the best energy so I can still be Judi Fox.
Hashtag foxrocks.
Yes, and I can have my hashtag foxrocks, which I would tell you all, go follow the hashtag foxrocks on LinkedIn.
Definitely, and I'll make sure I include all your links and everything. So yeah, I think that's really key to sort of make sure, as a business owner, you can end up getting spread very thinly, especially if you're sort of just starting out, and a parent or a single parent, or just a busy person anyway.
We never know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't mean to discount anyone else's situation, because it is just as hard to be in many, many other situations. I just like to point that out, because it's just something that I just didn't know was possible, because sometimes you just don't see somebody walking in a similar shoe, just like somebody who is potentially parenting and they're sandwiched between two generations and they're caring for their parents. That's a whole nother story, and that is powerful too. And who knows what will happen in any of our lives, but seeing people with diverse backgrounds, diverse situations, living arrangements. But I just know that being a single parent, it does fall on me to have more the financial, the emotional, and the physical weight of the entire family. I don't have a partner, so that's kind of just where I land.
Yeah, no, it's, it's so important what you were saying about best use of time and what's the most impactful way that you can use your day. Because, as a business owner, regardless of situation, especially when things get busy, that you can end up sort of being pulled into sort of those day-to-day things that actually are better being outsourced or, automated. So, I think that reminder is really good for, myself and the listeners about sort of making sure you have pick the impactful things, not just the sort of things that are on your to-do list.
Yes. And that's why not every message that you get requires stress, or I don't know what to call it, but a level of urgency that I think the world has wanted to treat all messages like. And I think that's really hard. And then the other thing I will say about LinkedIn is I probably do anywhere from 5 to 10 connection calls per week, but that doesn't mean I can talk to, so I've now reached around 32,000 connections or so. So I can't talk to all 32,000 people. So I think this feeling that I'm already doing what I know is important for my career and my business. So there is no more, I should do more. And I feel like this pushing to constantly do more when I'm already doing amazing. I already have a full pipeline. I already have great engagement. I already have great this. I just need to keep it sustainable, maintain, do what I'm doing, keep doing it. There's a power in just keep doing what you're doing.
Exactly. And sort of, you're obviously, you've achieved amazing things and you're continuing to do so and support other people. But if you could go back and sort of start it all over again, what would you do differently?
I would have gone full time earlier, I think. I think I hesitated because I do have the financial load. I got corporate is safe, and that whole language, and also didn't maybe understand how to build a business that would create repeatable results and security, because really what is running your own business? It's kind of thinking, I want a secure income. I want it to be stable. I don't want to be feeling like 1 month I'm down here and 1 month I'm up here. And to be able to build that is really powerful. And I think I wished earlier that I had found, maybe it was just timing, but I ended up finding several amazing coaches along the way, but one in particular that really set my mindset correct for what setting up a repeatable, stable business can look like. And it's not everyone's model, but it's the one that appealed to me with my bandwidth, my time, what I wanted to do. And once I saw that, I was tunnel vision and I was implement, and it was go time. I just wish I had seen that earlier. Is that like gotten a coach earlier that could do that for me, that could help be the direction and energy I needed to funnel everything into, because at some point you might need help getting all of that information distilled into that funnel to get the final success. Like I needed that click.
And I think, the value, obviously I would say this being a coach, but, the value of having someone external, whether that be a mentor that's sort of giving you more directive support, or a coach that's helping sort of to tease those, answers out of yourself and, support you as a business owner is so important, because as solopreneurs, you can get caught up in your own mind very much, and it can be difficult to sort of take that bird's eye view over your business. And that's exactly what your coach has obviously done with you, is to help you sort of focus and see how to make that more sustainable. And that's definitely been something that's come up a lot with my guests, about surrounding yourself with either coaches or mentor, and having someone to model that on is really key. So yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm sure you've received a lot of advice over your career from many different sources, but what would you say is the sort of one piece of advice, the best advice that sort of really chimes with you about sort of being successful?
I think the best advice is when stuff hits the fan, because again, it's not a matter of if it's going to hit the fan. There's always going to be something that sparks an issue, sparks something that is going to happen. It is really nice to have just people in your corner that you've created, not just, I mean, it is nice to obviously have and pay for a coach and a mentor, and I have definitely done that along the way. I just think it's really nice to have those like OMG friends, or people who, when you are having a low point, a emotional moment, because there are times where your emotions come up and you have to handle that, or you have to kind of process it, have it, and to have some of those safe people that you have created relationships over time. And I can think of about, because I did have something come up recently where I got kind of like, oh no, like this is hard. And I turned around and reached out to a few, and that's the moment you know that you have them, or that you're like, oh wow, I really appreciate you. And make sure to appreciate them back. Make sure to be supportive in return for those key connections. They don't necessarily have to be running their own business, but just somebody in life that if you needed to cry, we just don't want to be lonely. We all want to be seen and heard. And I think that's powerful for us as business owners, to know we have a safe space to be seen and heard, not just by somebody you're paying to see and hear you. I know that sounds funny, but yeah. I felt like sometimes I'm like, well, I'm just paying you to see and hear me.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, to have, when you're running a business, it's often those things, like you said, that come up that is either really hard, or, it's upsetting, or, stressful. And I think having someone to talk to that you trust, that's not emotionally connected to that, is so important, because you can get very much in your own head with, quite small things sometimes, and just to have someone that you trust that's wise, or has been through similar situation, or just gives a sort of different view, I think is really important.
Yeah, and I think creating your own manifesto, I think it's really powerful. I know I use the word manifesto, but it's mainly just a cheat sheet of you, like who are you, so that way when stuff does happen to you and you feel pulled and tossed and upset because somebody maybe has written something negative or something has been said, you can remind yourself, okay, that really isn't me. Like, I do make mistakes, but that if you've handled a mistake professionally and kindly, that story that somebody else is telling is not you.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to separate, especially if you've handled, we all are going to make business mistakes, but it's really, truly, do you turn around? Do you handle it? Do you offer a refund? Do you show compassion? Are you saying, hey, oh my gosh, I didn't understand that we had this disagreement, or that's, even though that wasn't my intention, I made you feel this way. So like, how are you going to handle it from that moment forward? But always reminding yourself that that mistake is not you. That's not how you normally run things. That's not the 99.9% of the time, or what you had said. Sometimes we just have misunderstandings. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if people want to find out more about what you're doing, where's the best place for them to go?
Let's just say LinkedIn. It's if you want to find me on LinkedIn, a really, really easy, fast way to find me is in the search bar at the top. Literally type in hashtag, the hashtag symbol, and then FOXROCKS. And you can see all of my content. You can click on my circle image and connect with me. I have only 900 connections left open before I get locked out of accepting any more connections. So we will see. We'll see when I hit that max number.
Wow. So this is, you've heard it here first. Get in quick.
Yeah, this is actually the first time I've shared that.
That's fantastic. And, otherwise it's just, people will still be able to follow you, but obviously you won't be connected. So
I know. So you'll have to connect with me also on Instagram. So all of my handles, most of them, not all, but I tried to make as many as possible. JUDIFOX rocks. So Judi Fox rocks, which is fun.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we're all linked up. So I'll make sure I share this on both LinkedIn and Instagram. And yeah, it'll be fantastic. And I'd love to have you back in, a few months, see what you're getting up to.
Yes, that would be exciting. So thank you so much.
Oh, well, thanks so much for joining me. And for the listeners here today, join me for the next episode where I'll be joined by Catherine Gladwin. She's award-winning author of the best-selling book, How to Be a Virtual Assistant. And she's got her new book that's just come out that I've just bought on Amazon, so I'm looking forward to receiving that, which is called The 20% Rule, which is exactly what we were talking about today. It's about how to make your business sustainable and pretty much run without you, so you can have some time off. So if that sounds interesting, then join me for the next episodes. And if you've been inspired by all the amazing stories you've heard today with Judi, and you would like to spark your own success, then book in a free call with me at sparksucceed.co.uk. So thank you, Judi, so much. It's been fantastic to have you. And next time we'll get the puppy on as well.
I know, we had a little small glimpse of him.
But thank you so much. And have a great day.
Thank you too. Bye.